Order expansion.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order our November 19th meeting of the McLeod County Board of Commissioners. Can we please start our meeting today with our Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and again, welcome. We'll begin our meeting today with employee recognition. Hannah.
Good morning. It's nice
Morning.
to see so many folks in the room. I'm really excited this morning to get to take a moment to recognize all of the 2024 elections personnel and support staff that supported our 2024 elections this past November as well as throughout the year, but particularly the election that just happened a few weeks ago. Just on a personal note, I had the opportunity to serve on the ballot board, and it was an awesome experience to get to see the process led by our Auditor Treasurer Connie Kurtzwig, and then get to do that both as a community member who lives here in the county, but also as an employee from McLeod County. So first of all, we have a lot of us in the back, but if we could just give a big round of applause to all the staff that supported the election this year. Yeah. And then I'm going to have our Auditor Treasurer Connie come up to the front, share a little bit of some statistics about the election, and then afterwards we'll take a photo with our support staff and elections personnel with the board. So let's give it up for Connie.
Thank you. It actually is a very exciting day. So McLeod County statistics of the state general, we had registered voters at 7 a.m. of 24,090. Of those registered voters, we had 21,314 ballots cast, which is a total voter turnout of 88.48%. So the state numbers adjust now and then, so if you go out on their website, they may be a little different from what I state right now. But when I prepared this, their voter turnout of the registered voters was 88.37%. So McLeod County pretty much was comparable this time to the statewide average. I want to talk a little bit about the absentee and mail ballots. So the absentee and mail ballots are the envelope process that begins 46 days before the election. And then the direct balloting is the application process, and where the voter would come here to the government center and insert their ballot into the tabulator. That's 18 days before election day. McLeod County had 5,926 ballots accepted, either by absentee or direct balloting, which turned out to be 27.8% of our total ballots cast. So we did have a huge turnout for both of those. And then as a reminder, the city of Hutchinson also has the absentee process there. Within the final 3 days of the election and absentee and direct balloting, so Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, McLeod County processed over 500 voters here at the government center in our dedicated voting room. And we needed a minimum of 5 election judges at that time to serve with the continuous flow of voters. There's 8 booths in that room, so it was turned over many times. People were very appreciative, and that was good to see. The Canvass Board met on November 12th to review the state general election. That's the meeting where the results are certified, the winners are declared, and the abstracts are signed. 2 precincts at that meeting were chosen at random by the Canvass Board to participate in the post-election review meeting, also known as a PER to us. The PER meeting was yesterday, November 18th. Glencoe Township and Rich Valley participated in that. The PER is a manual hand count of the paper ballots for the specific offices of U.S. President, U.S. Senator, and U.S. Representative. On a non-presidential year, it would be U.S. Governor. Both precincts did hand count and determined that the tabulator results were accurate, and there were no differences between the tabulator and their hand counts. So next I want to move on to our recognition portion. McLeod County did utilize 28 in-house election judges, including the election personnel and county staff from 8 different departments. And today I invited them for recognition of the board, everyone involved in McLeod County elections. For those who are customer service facing, they could not attend like the License Center staff, yet we do recognize their service as well. I want to thank each and every one of these individuals, many of whom were pulled from their regular work, sometimes multiple times a day, to assist with absentee ballot board duties and courier services. We do courier between Hutchinson and McLeod County. They all demonstrated dedication to a fair, accurate, and secure election that McLeod County exemplifies, and I'm extremely proud of their excellence and grateful for the board approval for the opportunity, excuse me, to create such an extraordinary team. Finally, a sincere thank you to Janet for her coordination and successful delivery of the election seasons this year.
If I could ask all of our election staff and support to come on up, and then we will do vote up in the front.
You can do back row, front row.
Okay, perfect. You guys want to scoot in your chairs, stand when you stand up?
Sure.
We'll have your head on back there, and I think we'll be able to make a short. Thank you, everybody. We'll do a couple of rows. Is that all right? If you tend to be a little taller, you can head in the back. If you're a little shorter, let's have you step in the front. Perfect. Awesome. If you're a little bit shorter, you can head to the front. If you're a little taller, let's head to the back. Getting some people right shapes. Could I have you guys come on up to the front here a little bit? Stephanie, I'll scoot in this line over here. Ryan, can you come on over as well? Thank you. Awesome. You guys look really good. Yep. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Let's do one more round of applause for all of our staff.
Just a big old cell.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Connie. Appreciate it.
Not happy, he had
All right.
to be happy hours.
Very important group of people that we just had up here, so thank you again for taking time this morning to come forward and being recognized. We'll then move into our regular agenda items. The first will be our consideration of agenda items. Do you have any additions or corrections to today's agenda?
Mr. Chair,
But
regarding our closed meeting item near the end of the agenda, I would request that we move that to the second meeting in December. I've met with our board members. I am still meeting with some department heads, and I would appreciate that December date to complete the review.
okay, so we'll be removing that for today's agenda. Is there any other additions or
And the
corrections?
date is on the second meeting is what?
December 17, it should be.
Very good. I'll move on the agenda with the correction.
Second. We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmaltz to approve today's agenda items, removing the item on the closed meeting and postponing that until December 17th. Is there any additions or any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our next agenda item today, with all these Blue Jackets that have joined us, will be our Glencoe Silver Lake FFA program. So who would like to go first, or do we have Rebecca with us this morning or not? Nope. Okay, so I'll just kind of lead into this. A few weeks ago, I was at the National FFA Convention. I had the honor of being able to watch our daughter receive her American degree, and it is amazing to be there and to see thousands and thousands of these Blue Jackets from all over the nation. I think at one point they called out the membership roll of guests and members there nearing close to 70,000. And I know that the GSL chapter had some teams that were competing, both teams and individuals, I believe. And I ran into Rebecca, which is about like trying to find somebody at the state fair. But I ran into her in one of the show areas, and I said, hey, can you please bring your chapter to a board meeting so that we can just, talk about what the national convention is for your teams and the competitions that you saw and what that means to you, and perhaps some of the other things that your chapter is involved in. And she was excited, and we're glad to have you here. And so, however you guys would like to come to the mic and tell us about your experiences. I mean, our dedication here to youth development is very high, and so we want to be able to acknowledge those champions out there that are able to take advantage of these opportunities. Yeah, let's just see what it's like through your eyes, what you've been doing. So whoever would like to come forward, or whatever you've arranged for a program this morning.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to say thank you for having us. We have a few handouts just about FFA and our trip to National Convention. My name is Grady Schuft. I'm serving as your president this year, the 2024-2025 officer team. We have most of our competing members here. We have one missing from the Ag Issues team, but we all had a very, very fun time. Very fond memories. I know this was my first time going down, but some of these members have been down there before, and every time is a new experience, but it's a great experience, and it could be once in a lifetime, but it's great to experience how many members there are in FFA, like you had mentioned, and just the diversity. The day after we competed, it was kind of a humbling moment to see how many people and how many different people are in FFA, but we're all different, but we share the same interests, and it's just amazing to see. So if you guys don't have any questions, I think if we'd be able to present a little bit of our each competition to you guys.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Who wants to start?
So for our team, we're the agricultural sales team. So for short, just ag sales. But basically what we do is we get to take a 50-question test, which is everyone's favorite. We get to start out with the day with it. It's awesome. But then we move on to the fun part. And so basically what we do is we pretend to go be an actual sales team. So one portion of the contest, we're working together and we're team planning, which we get 12 minutes to do, and we have to answer 7 questions. And so that's what we're going to present here for you today, a little bit of it. And then after that, we move on to a team presentation. So that's kind of where they get to ask us questions about the choices that we made while we were planning, how we, plan to go about with our customers later. And then we move on to an individual sales call, which is basically one-on-one with a judge, and that's a cold call scenario. So we get 5 minutes to read a little bit of information about this customer, and then we have to go meet with them. And then we kind of, guide with them through the process to a sale. And then the last part of the competition is a customer service call. So that's someone we've sold to in the past, and they have an issue or a problem, and then we use our product knowledge to help guide them to a solution and kind of, help solve their problem that way as well. This year we got the joy of selling Kubota skid loaders, so that was really awesome. Not coming from a traditional agricultural background, it was really fun to kind of learn how to, and just learn more about the farm side of things, because I needed that, that knowledge to kind of help sell the product as well. So that was really fun.
So as Anna mentioned, we are going to do about 2 minutes of the team presentation, just so you can kind of see how well we work as a team and the practice that we have put into this competition.
Well, guys, it's been a little while since we've all been together. How are we doing since we last met?
I'm good. My brother's wedding just happened, so that was super exciting. Good to see family again and whatnot.
I'm ready for just kind of a chill week. It's been very busy. Just go, go, go. Ready to sit down and just relax.
With hunting season all over now, you got a nice buck myself, and after cleaning all that over, it's kind of nice being able to relax again. So, what about you, Grady? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We got little bit of field work to do yet, but we're kind of waiting until it freezes. So once it happens, it'll be go time. But I call it my therapy, so I like sitting in the tractor. So I'd love to sit and talk with you guys, but I really think we need to get into this scenario. So if someone wants to read that for us.
Sure. Brad and Randy are brothers that run D&D Construction located in southwest metro of the Twin Cities. D&D Construction has 5 road construction crews that operate all over the southern and central Minnesota and Wisconsin. Road construction is 85% of the business, with the other percentage consumed by commercial parking lots, entrances, etc. Last year, the company had 2 major implements stolen from construction zones and 3 wrecked by poorly ran construction crews. While the foreman involved had been removed from these roles, Brad and Randy hoped to prevent similar issues. Even with these deficits, project completion was up by 11% in 2024. Due to this success, they knew it was time to update their equipment for further reliability and ease of mind. They have reached out to Kubota for quotes on popular skid loader models and new attachments. Their working season runs from March to November most years, so the brothers would like to meet with the sales team to discuss a purchase before the 2025 season begins.
Well, holy cow, it seems like they got a lot going on with a whole bunch of road construction. I know we always see we like to call it the state flower of the road cones up on the roads.
Oh, yeah.
Before we really get to know them as customers, I feel like we should really get to know them as people first, because then we can start to understand them better.
Yeah. Well, Brad and Randy, they're brothers. I mean, it seems like they must have a pretty good connection if they're having a business together and working together. That's something I really strive to have with my siblings.
Yeah, and even like my dad owns a family business, and I know me and my brother are kind of involved with it, and I know with that comes a lot of pride, so I'm sure that's something they're really proud of as well.
You know, and they're all over southern and central Minnesota and Wisconsin. I know not only I, but we all can relate back to that we are all from Minnesota too.
It's kind of cool that most of their business is road construction, and a lot of it's based in the Twin Cities. I've always been impressed with all the bridges and everything that's been built around there. It really interests me. So, I mean, it's kind of cool about that too.
Yeah. So I think we really got to know them from a personal standpoint, but I really think we should look at them from a customer standpoint. So what are some things we can ask them to build rapport with them?
I mean, right off the bat, one thing that struck me, like I said again, that business, maybe how they started it, if that they kind of took it over from someone else, or if they started it themselves.
Cool. Like Grady said earlier, Brad and Randy are brothers, so it's kind of ask them about how long they've been kind of doing this kind of stuff. What's their big relationship? Like, what do they do in their pastimes too?
I see here the stolen equipment or the implements stolen from the construction site. That really struck me because they are such a big construction site. How do they manage to let that many of their skid loaders get stolen from that site?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it says that they do a lot of road construction, but it also says they do some commercial parking lots and entrances, you know, just kind of learning like what they like to do more. Just because 85% of their business is the road construction doesn't mean that's what they enjoy doing the most.
Yeah, Grady, that's a good point. I think for time's sake, we should jump down to question number 5. And, you know, one potential need and want that stands out to me, like Emma mentioned, is that stolen implements. I think that our telematics program that comes with our skid loaders really just can offer them that peace of mind that they know exactly where their skid loader is. They can set up that geofencing feature, and it gives them the peace of mind that that might not ever happen again.
Yeah, you know, and with our 75-3, that's a great skid loader. It's got the lockout code too, so that you have to punch in the code. And it, like you said, with the telematics, it can all be connected to your phone, and you have to know the code to get in.
Another thing I think they would be really, really happy with is our product's easy maintenance. So already it says project completion was up 11% this year, and obviously that means they want to get the job done fast, which is pretty obvious. But even with our easy maintenance, this could mean that your product completion rate can skyrocket even higher.
And you know, their business runs from March to November, so that means they're working a lot in between there. So maybe that comfortability too. We know that when we are sitting somewhere, we don't want to be sitting in a rock hard seat. So being as we have that high back mechanical suspension seat, that's going to help immensely. And that ample legroom and the 9 vents to make sure that they stay comfortable, but also their equipment stays comfortable as well.
Yeah, one thing we need to stress, like you said, Emma, is a comfortable operator is a productive operator, and if they want to get the job done fast, these are the skid loaders to do it in.
That was kind of that.
Cool.
That was just a brief section. Usually we have about 7 questions to go through. We just went through 2 just to keep the ball rolling. But
So how much prep time did you have So you knew that the contest is gonna be about the Kubota skid steer then. So how much prep time did you have to work on your presentation and to research, what you wanna go with?
Us three have actually been doing this competition for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Chris joined us this summer, and so we had some time to go over kind of like what we wanted the presentation to be. But we got our product in early August, so we've had time. Emma's stepdad actually is a Kubota salesman out at Arnold's.
Okay.
So he really helped us with getting to know our product and just researching, and we actually went out and test drove him one day and just getting to know him really well.
So you got some really good community support getting prepared for that too then, so that's.
For sure.
So what was that like, stepping into the room for a national competition then down in Indianapolis?
It was definitely different, especially from the state convention, only because it was so different. The two competitions didn't really match up at all, but stepping into a room full of 172 kids doing the exact same thing was definitely eye-opening. That test in the morning, we were all sitting there, and there was people all around with the blue jackets. And then going into this big ballroom where the big event was happening, you could see the judges smiling, all the kids smiling, and enjoying the time. That was definitely an experience to remember.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Who evaluates you, and then do you get a printout, or how do you, make use of what you did learn and how you, work through your participation?
So one thing that's kind of unique about this competition is that just because there's so many kind of moving parts with it, there's a whole bunch of different judges. So we go to a different judge for each activity. Our team planning and our questions are with the same two judges, so that's kind of nice. But they write down their feedback on a sheet. They have a rubric, like an actual paper rubric, that they write down. So it's really easy. That gets scanned over to us after our competitions, just so we can kind of see what needs to improve, what we did well, that sort of thing. And then it's a different judge for both the customer service and the sales call. So the judges actually have a little role play to do. They get to pretend to be our customers, which is kind of fun, because I know we were one of the first teams to go in the day, and they're still getting a little hiccups out. So it's fun to kind of adjust to the judge as well and learn the judge a little bit too.
And that's in all your competitions, all your different teams. Is that basically the same way they judge them, or, you know what I mean? You have different teams. Do they judge it the same way as a team and as an individual?
So within the 50 states, obviously, there's 48 different teams, I think, 47 different teams. They all went through the same room. That doesn't mean we all got the same judges. So there's a table A, B, and C, and D, and so whichever one you started at kind of determined your path. I haven't competed in other competitions within FFA, if that's what you're asking, like poultry or like egg issues, so I don't know exactly how they get judged.
Okay.
But there is a rubric for each of them that we can study beforehand and kind of base off of that.
You're a handsome bunch of looking people, so I'm really proud that you served us well. And I thank Rebecca for her work. She's exciting, and she helps make it go, so I appreciate that. And I also, I did listen to, I think it's KNUJ, or Jimmy Bartles keeps a pretty good track on FFA's done it for years, and I appreciate that as well. And I mean, before we go, Mr. Chair, the six that didn't get a chance to talk, either pass them a mic or go through all this, and we might as well hear who you are and where you're from here.
Yeah. I think they're egg issues teams there.
All right, good morning. So we are the Egg Issues team. We also competed at National Convention. We are missing one of our members. We usually have 6 people on our team. We're missing Hallie Holmberg. She played the role as Representative Don Gilman. So what I'll do first is we'll just go through who we are and who we play, because in our presentation, it's a 13 to 15 minute presentation based on an issue related to agriculture within our community. So we set it up as a informational town hall meeting where different companies and groups of people come to the meeting to get informed about our topic, which this year our topic was runoff regulations and how they affect these different groups of people. So my name is Jaden Schaefer, and I had the honor of playing Mr. Commissioner Doug Kruger in our presentation.
Thank you.
My name is Aidan LaPlante, and I played the role as a small dairy and crop farmer.
I'm Ava Ranzout, and I played a urban homeowner.
My name is Caroline Dostal, and I played a co-op manager.
I'm Keen Mahan. I played the role as a pollution control agent.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna stand along here because we have a kind of order that we go in. We're just gonna do roughly 2 minutes of our presentation, and then we'll talk with you guys after.
And if you could, is there a way that you could pass the microphone between you so that we make sure and pick it up, please?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does that one work as well, or? Yes, it does. Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Well, I support WOTUS, and whatever it takes because it provides our earth with clean soil and fresh waterways.
That's why we are here. We are here to listen to the opinions of the people.
Yeah.
Oh, that was me. Sorry. Sorry. But let's not forget the purpose of all this. The American Farm Bureau has stated that WOTUS was the linchpin of the Clean Water Act, determining when and how an act's regulations apply to our lives. John, when WOTUS was being revised in September of last year, I remember talking to you about similar concerns that you had of the government controlling your operation.
Yeah, we're going to run into these same concerns with these new runoff regulations. Is the government going to try and control every little bit of water on my land?
Right. That's why we are here. We're here to listen to you guys.
Hey, wait, now my water tastes funny. Maybe I'm crazy, but I saw on the news the other day that there are diseases that come from high concentrations of nitrate in the drinking water. Is this related to my bad tasting water? Is the kind of problems we're dealing with? Like, I just want my clean water, you guys.
That bad water you're tasting is from excess nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the water. The EPA tries their best to filter those bad chemicals, but there's concern that those bad chemicals are causing diseases like blue baby syndrome.
Okay, but don't blame this on my chemicals. We didn't apply them.
Whoa, it's not my problem or my crops. It's those homeowners spraying Roundup on their lawn.
But 52% of Minnesota is agricultural land.
Residential land isn't even close to that.
You're still spraying on your lawn to make it look pretty.
What's the point of that?
It's all bad. It's all bad.
I am so fed up with this.
here to
You went
learn.
too old for this.
Okay, no one is blaming anyone here. We are here to listen to the opinions of the people. We all want clean water, but the issue is we cannot agree on a solution that makes everybody happy. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, great topic.
Yeah.
And really interesting how you went through that so quick. So for your team, what was your prep time like going into, you made it through state, now you're going to nationals, and what was that like?
So we have been practicing since last January. So we had the same topic for state. So we practiced most of the summer, like whenever we could, and then we practiced all school year leading up to nationals, and then even like on the way down there we practiced. In the Airbnb we practiced whenever we could, to be honest.
Commissioner Kruger, you had a nice meeting there.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah. Wow.
How many hours of practice did you do?
Yeah. How often do you practice?
As Ava said in the beginning, we started in January, and we would practice around an hour to 2 hours every day, 5 days a week, just getting our presentation, the information we needed, how we wanted to present our issue, and just getting all the information that we need, because there is a strict outline that we have to do. We have to do things a certain way. We have to include certain things, because in the presentation we have to represent the pro side and the con side of this issue. So like our farmer and our co-op, they were representing the con side because that would affect them negatively because of it costs them money that they don't have, and just all that. And then the pollution control agent and the homeowner were for the regulations because it would help the environment and it didn't affect them on a deeper level as it did the farmer, because that's his whole livelihood is his farm.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
In group, I was very impressed with the topics of both examples that you gave us this morning. I mean, those are issues that we face as a community every day. So appreciate the topic. Also, I'm proud to see those Blue Jackets when I see them at the national level, state level. I want to congratulate the Glencoe Silver Lake FFA and also the surrounding FFA chapters in our region and our state. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I additionally want to add, as an Egg Issues team, we had to answer 5 minutes of questions, and then at state we had 5 minutes, at nationals we also had 5 minutes. So our week before state convention, we practiced many hours a day answering questions straight. It might have been a little bit draining, but we think that we were very confident with our questions by the time we got to nationals. I also want to mention Caesar. Do you want to come up and talk?
So I am Cesar Pizzana. I competed in the Spanish creed at nationals. It's basically a 5-paragraph creed explaining what agriculture is and what we do as agriculturists, the progress we have done over the years. I go on and say it in Spanish instead of English. And do you guys like me to recite it?
Sure.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
All right, let's see if my memory's still well. The first paragraph is: Creo en el futuro de la agricultura con una fe que no nace de las palabras, sino de los hechos. Logros conseguidos por las generaciones presentes y pasadas de agricultores en el futuro agricultores, y creo que en el futuro podemos agricultores, y creo en la promesa de días mejores a través de mejores maneras. So that's just the first paragraph. Obviously, I'm already losing it.
That's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions?
So the creed speaking contest, so these guys get to be in a team, and you're an individual, so one person gets to stand up there, like you did now. So, pretty nerve-wracking or not?
Yes, really,
Yeah, yep.
really nervous.
I know when I was in my green hand days, I was in the creed speaking contest way back when, but that was so many years ago. I don't even want to admit that one anymore. So, but I know what it's like trying to memorize that one, and then trying to. That's one thing, but then being able to pull it together in front of a group and judges is another one. So, and I thought that was really intriguing to hear that you used your skills with Spanish in that creed. So were there a number of others that recited the creed in Spanish as well then at nationals?
Yes, there was like 48 total contestants, and I'm just glad I got to know most of them. And I'm really happy that my background is starting to be included in FFA.
Excellent, excellent. Huh.
That's
Well-
all I have as well, is it's excellent that they're doing this. Was there other nationalities or how many, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at, that you had to compete against?
So there are different rounds. I just had to compete against 5 people to go to the next round. Unfortunately, the competition was tough, and I did not make it to the next round. But I did have the chance to go to the national convention, and it was amazing to see people from around the world. Well, America.
Yep, yep.
I have a question. How many of you are seniors in high school and juniors
Oh my.
and sophomore? So you have a couple more years of a chance.
Yeah, I am.
Beat that
fairly
tough
new.
competition, right? Have a lot of seniors though, so. But a lot of our board or I shouldn't say a lot, majority of our board members, I believe, were FFA members. Which of you?
Yeah.
4, 5, all of you? You weren't? Oh. Nathan, I would have never known. You could have tricked us.
Still have my blue jacket hanging in the closet.
So do I, but mine doesn't fit.
Yours does.
They shrink. They shrink. That's the one problem with those blue jackets is they shrink.
My FFA one isn't as bad as the 4-H one.
Yeah. wow, this was great to have you come here today and go through, you know, your contest areas. And I hope you realize that your involvement is going to give you such a boost in life. You guys stood up there and you grabbed the microphone and you just talked like it was no big deal. And there's a lot of people that get so nervous up there, they fall apart. And communication skills is such a huge deal, and your ability to get up in front of groups and so forth. And you guys just blow through that like it's just part of what you're going to do, right? And that's awesome. So, I mean, what other comments can the board have? This was fun to have you guys there. So.
Is the membership strong? I seen most of you were seniors. Is there a lot of them coming up?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of touch on the chapter here real quick. So there is a packet. It's the FFA banquet packet. That's from our year last year. And then we did give you a membership roster. We have about 127 active members on our roster this year already. And one thing about FFA is so cool that it doesn't close its membership. So unlike a fall sport that closes, you know, you can't register past a certain date, we take members all year round. So they can truly join whenever. And I mean, our number of 127 is up from where it was last year. And last year we saw exponential members in our chapter. I think we got up to like 143 or something.
And I'm sure what you do helps new memberships come on. I mean, it's very obvious that you're working hard and you're doing a good job.
Yeah, I know in our chapter throughout the last 2 years, we've seen a really exponential drive up in our numbers of 7th and 8th graders. And I think part of that is because of our advisor, Rebecca, but I think a part of that is the cool upperclassmen that we have. And then two, if you want to flip to the back side of that FFA banquet, I know that one award we got last year was called the Land of Service Award. So this one is really cool because last year I was president, and one thing that I really wanted to do is, since we had so many districts and so many towns in our FFA chapter, from kids all over, whether that's Leicester Prairie, New Auburn, Biskie, Plato, Glencoe, we have over 9 districts. And so we won the Land of Service Award, which means that we raised over $150,000, whether that's our community service hours or actual monetary value to be put back into the community. So that's super cool, and the kids do it, and they don't even realize they're doing it, and that's the coolest part. Because that you can walk away at the end of the year and say, like, we did that, and we are actively helping our community and making a difference in our community.
Those of you who are seniors, are you pursuing agricultural career paths, going to school for something ag-related? Cool.
I am not, but I'm running for state office for FFA in the spring, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
I'm not as well. I'm going into the medical field.
Well, we need those too, so.
Well, I think the diversity in FFA is going to help, whether you stay with ag or not. It's going to bring ag forward into whatever you feel to go into.
Yeah.
I got an off-the-wall question there. Do you still do parliamentary procedure as much as we used? I mean, that was a big thing.
We do, actually. We just made it to state yesterday. Crazy, because we practiced, I know, all of us are here. But it's Caroline, Ava, Kian, and then Emma, Chris, and myself. And we had 1 2-hour practice. And at the time, there were 6 teams competing, and we were like, we competed in nationals, so let's just throw a hat in the ring, see where it goes. And then 2 teams dropped out, so there was 4 teams left, and the top 3 make it to state. And so by some miracle, we ended up being second. And so that was really cool just to kind of see it happen again. And I know last year we actually got 5th in state as a parley team, so we had a couple people returning from that team, and it's cool that we get to be in and again and experience state convention.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to do a group photo. All of you can come up here.
Yeah, come on up for a picture.
Board, if you just want to mix in with the group.
Come on, scatter
And
in
then
here.
face this way. I'm going to do the photo from here. I think Grady could make it to state for the hockey tournament and win the hair contest.
Are we going to have the two Commissioner Kruger stand together?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah, do you want to do the photo?
I got a big story to this Commissioner
You guys can stand up and we'll just kind of find a window. Just find a window here.
Make sure she can see your face.
So just find a window. You can stand up straight. You're totally fine. Just find a window.
What's this window thing?
Find a window. Stand between someone's head. That's a window.
Oh,
Find a window, find a window.
Okay, let's try this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's try one more thing. Could we, Commissioner Kruger, can you just go that way a little bit?
Which one?
Just-
Yeah.
yeah. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, good job.
The buckets stay.
Been an honor.
Get checks in the mail.
Thanks for letting us use your name. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
They have, the members have t-shirts and hats for the commissioners, and they're gonna hand those out to people daily.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice color.
Yes, they are.
Look at that for
You know, what size do you use?
extra large or something like that.
Extra large.
What size can I get you?
Extra large.
Thank you.
Let's, you have 2X.
Thank you so much.
Yes, for sure. And then
Great job.
Thank you. There you go.
Can you get one?
No, I'm good, thank you. Matches my coat. Matches your coat.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, have a great day.
Wasn't expecting gifts this morning.
No, I wasn't either.
I think the GSL school district and the community has much to be proud of with those kids. Moving on with our agenda, we'll call on Will Feldman.
Good morning. Yeah,
morning.
tough act to follow. Brought up some memories when I was in FFA back in the day too. It's really
Yeah.
neat to see. Today I'm seeking approval for a joint powers agreement between Hennepin County and the McLeod County Jail for boarding inmates here at the McLeod County Jail. Hennepin County reached out about 2 weeks ago. They have to reduce their capacity by several hundred inmates. So they reached out to multiple facilities across the state. We determined a number of inmates, up to 7 inmates, that we could potentially house for them. They cover the cost of any medical, dental, anything like that, as long as also with a per diem. They'll communicate, it won't be just a dump and run. If we get our own inmates, they'll have to take theirs back, so it's be a good working relationship. I think it'll be beneficial. It's good to help out your neighbors for sure.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I got a question. Well, the joint powers part of it, I mean, what does that really mean? I mean, I'm always a little leery of a joint powers, and then with Hennepin County makes me a little more nervous, to be quite honest, but you seem confident in what you're undergoing here.
Yeah, we initially, when it was first reached out, the joint powers was kind of just a thought. It wasn't gonna happen, but on their end, they want to get more of contracts in place, like just framework of an agreement. With that being said, I've had discussions with them, make sure there's no surprises in there. The county attorney's office has also reviewed it. So no big, it's just more of a framework, just so there's some kind of guidelines to follow as we do it. We've housed, before our renovation or addition, we used to house out a lot of our inmates, Meekers, Carver, Renville, and we had agreements kind of similar with those agencies. So that's kind of where this framework came from as well.
The agreement is with the sheriff's department, or who does the joint power?
So it's the county board is the ultimate authority.
We are,
And then it trickles down, you have the sheriff's office underneath them.
And what is, hate to ask you, but what does that mean? What are our liabilities, or what are our responsibilities, plus, I guess, some liability, or is this all handled in the agreement?
Yes, the agreement spells out pretty much everything. Hennepin County assumes a large majority of the liability and responsibilities. They're going to be transporting all the inmates. Any medical issues that arise that are not emergent, they'll take care of. Obviously, if it's emergent, we need to give them medical attention right now. Our staff will take care of that. But that's what the agreement kind of spells out, that even though their inmates are here, it's still their responsibility and liability for a large majority of their treatment and such.
Is there a level of inmate that you'll take or not take as far as seriousness of crimes or?
No is the short answer.
Okay.
The thing about these agreements and boarding for other facilities, if their inmates don't play well or aren't conducive to us and they don't fit, we can reject them and swap out, but there's no certain level of anything. I know one concern I've had is, right, wrong, otherwise, is, we're bringing out Hennepin County inmates here, are they gonna be released to the streets in Glencoe? And that's majority not gonna be the case. They're gonna be transported back to Hennepin County where their family is, and when they get released, they'll be released from down there. There might be the rare exception where the inmate, maybe is from this area, because they travel, so then they can agree, but 95% of that will be down in Minneapolis.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Will, how do we get to the $60 per day figure? I mean, is that something we're sharing with our other neighboring counties, with Hennepin County? How do we get there? How do we get to 60?
Yeah, so the $60 a day was set by the county board on the fee schedule, and that's through course of time, we kind of compare it to our neighbors and what they're setting. What we found out now is we're a little behind in that department. So, and we've already set the 2025 fee schedule, so something to think about moving forward is we might have to evaluate that number and reset it. But that's kind of where we, looked around and got it from our neighboring counties.
Thank you, Will. Thanks.
Okay. Any further questions for Will?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And Will, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if there'd be a need to arise to cancel this agreement for whatever reason, I think the provision calls for with or without cause, and I think it's only 24-hour notice. Does that sound? So, I mean, if there were an issue or issues arose, there's a pretty quick cancellation period. Not that we're hoping to need that, but that would apply.
That is correct, yep. We're hoping not to use that, but we do have that if we need it.
Mr. Chair? One final question, Will, from me anyway. So I think you mentioned 5 or 6 possibility inmates being housed. Is that number something you come up with, which we could accommodate without adding extra staff for those days?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. So we agreed to up to 7, but that's looking at our current facility, the bed space that we have, the current staffing. So this would not be adding any additional staff, whether that's medical staff, kitchen staff, no additional staff would be added.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Will.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
In regards to the fee schedule, we haven't set it yet. If we're behind,
Then let's take a look.
maybe that's a conversation for later today. So my question is, if we vote on this right now, we're locking where I'm reading this, we're locking ourselves into the $60. So is it prudent not to leave them hanging? And I'm okay with this, I'll vote yes for it, but if the schedule is wrong, now is the time to fix it. So I suppose they're looking for beds yesterday.
Yeah, there you go. 2 weeks ago, pretty much we're looking.
I don't know, I guess I'm just throwing that out there. We can do whatever, obviously, but we haven't set it for the next year yet, so it would be, if we move forward, it'd be not a creative motion, but an open-ended one where it could change, I guess, but.
I'm glad you brought it up, Commissioner Nagel. That's a good point. I thought too we hadn't said it. I was going through trying to think, but do you think that we could act on it today because of the time whatever the new fee schedule is? I know that's open-ended for them, but.
Yeah, I think they're looking for something a little more concrete today to try to meet their deadlines that they have to meet. And I haven't had a lot of time to reach out and look at those other surrounding counties, so it might take me a little bit of time to gather said information to get a accurate fee for what that should be.
How often are we boarding for other counties other than Hennepin at this point?
So it happens occasionally. We have one for Sibley on a conflict case, so it does happen. It's rare. It's
Mr.
probably
Chair,
once, twice a year.
sorry. I had a email just asking if we could set it per the McLeod County fee schedule. The current McLeod County fee schedule, and then if it changes, you accommodate the change of the fee.
I think that's a good idea if that passes muster, county attorney.
I mean, that would be fine, assuming Hennepin's in agreement. And so I don't know how specific the discussions have been to date, but I mean, if they're in agreement with the term, there'd be no issue with phrasing it that way. We'd want to attach, or just make sure they have that fee schedule and the updates.
This is Mr. Chair, this is a question for both Will and possibly Commissioner Nagel. This is more of a issue of working with other departments more than, whether it's Hennepin or Sibley or whatever, is it not, or am I?
From my perspective, it's exactly that. It's the partnership that I want to be a part of, and which I'll support this. Well, we got to settle on a dollar amount, because we need to be responsible with that. That working relationship is important.
I do, I believe
across
that.
the board.
And just noting that the fee schedule only changes once per year. So you could put annual fee schedule because we have to have that set by a certain date. They would likely do the same if they made a contract with us.
Seems reasonable.
So you tell us, Will, with your conversations, I'm gonna stop short for now, but I'd throw the motion out to approve it based on our fee schedule, approved fee schedule. Do you think that would satisfy them?
Yeah, I think my conversations with them, they're acceptable, they're willing to work with us, partnership, so that would be a fair
Or you just have
compromise.
to communicate with them that it's not, it may be set later today or probably December, but it's not yet.
Sure.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that with the fee to be based off our approved fee schedule.
So your motion then would be to consider approving the joint powers agreement between Hennepin County and McLeod, and the rate would be per the McLeod County fee schedule?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve the joint powers agreement between Hennepin County and McLeod County. And the fee will be based off of the McLeod County fee schedule moving forward. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, and I don't want to call it a rationalization, but we haven't set the fee schedule, so it's prudent. I mean, it's not a gouge, or it's not a reflection on anybody, and like our administrator said, it's set yearly, so, I mean, it hasn't been set yet, so.
Perfect.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Next up will be Public Works. Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Consider adopting Resolution 24CB31, County Transfer of Excess Municipal Construction Funds to Regular Construction Funds. The county's municipal construction account balance is currently higher than state aid rules allow. A transfer is necessary to avoid construction fund balance needs deduction, which is a component that goes into the calculation of our annual state aid construction allotment. Adopting this resolution would transfer $950,000 of state aid municipal construction funds to the state aid regular construction account to avoid the county state aid highway municipal needs deductions. State aid rules allow for this transfer from municipal to regular, which will help keep our revenue coming in.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair, I don't see anything wrong with it. I looked into it when we set the agenda, and I would make a motion to pass Resolution 24CB31.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to consider adopting Resolution 24 CB31, transfer of excess municipal funds in the amount of $950,000 to regular funds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Asking the board to consider approving the estimate from Schaefer Well Company out of Newell, Minnesota to seal an old well at Lake Marion Park and build a new well, plus an add-on to connect the new well to an existing water system at a total cost of $29,801.84 with coronavirus relief funds from the American Rescue Plan Act and funds from the Minnesota Department of Health Source Water Protection Non-Community Transient Grant. As mentioned at a previous meeting, well number 3 at Lake Marion Park continued to test positive for total coliform. County staff, MDH, and well contractors were troubleshooting potential sources over the summer. And we did have Schaefer Well Company on September 10th come out and do a cammering of the well and found deficiencies in the well casing that is leading to the infiltration that we're experiencing out there. The add-on item that they are suggesting would connect the new well to the existing water system on the property that serves multiple campsites as well as the main bathroom. If the other well were to have issues, we would be able to service that separate system from this new well that they're constructing. The estimate from Schaefer Well Company to seal the old well and construct a new well was $25,463.64. Its estimate for the add-on connecting the new well to the existing system is $4,338.20. A second estimate was received from LTP Enterprises out of Hutchinson, Minnesota in the amount of $23,205.30. This estimate did not include the pricing for the necessary backhoe work to fully complete the job. A $10,000 grant was received from MTH to be used towards the construction of a new well and sealing of the old well.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair, or go ahead.
While on paper it looks like we're taking the higher bid, we are not.
Without that necessary backhoe work, we wouldn't be able to do the work in general, and so ultimately it was an incomplete bid that they provided us.
All right, with that, I'll move to approve both the construction and sealing of the old well plus the connection to the existing water service.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve the estimate from Schaefer Well Drilling for the well requirements at the Lake Marion Park. Any questions?
I have one, Mr. Chair. I'm a little confused on the hookup. I mean, if this well goes good, and I think it's more than right to hook them together, but if it's all good, why not hook it all to the new well? I mean, there's something to be said that the more water that comes off the well, the better the water is, but I don't know if that's true or not, but that's some things that I've experienced. Could you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah,
I mean, it's all right to keep it for a backup, but.
Yep, that was just a recommendation that they made. They said that it could handle the amount of water that we'd be using out there. I don't know that it would be a full solution for, to be used,
sure,
throughout, the life of the well, but if need be, that it would be serviceable for those sites in that bathroom.
I guess my point would be just to manage that, not to let one stagnant or.
Yep.
Very good.
Just a quick question on the cost. So we're at a little over almost $30,000, and we're subtracting from that the $10,000 grant.
Correct.
So we're using roughly $20,000 of ARPA money on the
Correct.
project. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're now up to the public hearing for the cannabis ordinance. So the first thing we need to do is to open our public hearing, and then we will have our administrator take it from there. So we need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmaltz, second by Kruger to open our public hearing dealing with the McLeod County ordinance regulating the use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A, as you read, consider adopting changes to our McLeod County ordinance regulating the use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places. That final draft is in front of all of you. It is in the packet. And what it would be is if you are willing to accept the items in red, those are the changes to your public use, and adding also cannabis businesses within McLeod County to that ordinance. We do not have any planning and zoning ordinance changes yet, which is the next item on the public hearing, number 8. So you will not have anything to review with that in addition. That would maybe need to be taken into consideration while looking at this. That's expected to happen in a phased approach, as the county attorney talked about. That would be phase 2, which would happen after, I believe, after January 1 or around there. The important part in this draft, I think that would need to be considered for discussion at least, would be section 6. That's limits on cannabis businesses in the county. I've given you 2 recommendations that you can choose one or the other, or you can reject both and choose something else. It is listed as 4 retail operations would need to be allowed in McLeod County. That's incorrect. It would be 3. So a minimum of 3 would have to be allowed per the state laws that have been passed already. And beyond that, you can limit it to whatever number that you wish, or not limit it at all. You know the discussions that we've had with the townships and cities. I do see that we have some City of Winstead members here today. I don't know if they wanted to speak to anything, but their administrator is here if he does. And I have nothing else to add besides what you see, unless you have questions, or if the county attorney wants to know anything. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Sheila, if, I think I asked this before, but saying we do make it 3 or 4 or whatever number we pick, but then each city does their own ordinance, they can actually go above our 3 or 4 in their city?
Correct, if they have their own ordinance. It's not the same as when you had the first round of public use and your ordinance governed over theirs, or could. You had the choice, and I believe that you chose 2. And it is a minimum number of 3. It's not 3 or 4. So any number 3 or above, you can choose, or you can choose not to set a number. The cities, if they choose not to draft their own ordinance and adopt your ordinance, they can adopt it now and go through the public hearing process. They could change their mind down the road. They could change their ordinance down the road, or they could add one, or get rid of their own and adopt the county ordinance as well. So it would be, set in stone for that public hearing period, and when it's adopted by their council or board. However, they can change it down the road with the proper notifications, just as you can as well. It's a new arena for everyone. I know that County Attorney Hanch has told you several times, we are not behind the curve. However, we only have so much time left in the year. We only have 2 more board meetings for sure. We may have 3. We have an extra date if need be. However, this meets the timeline that we've discussed throughout the last few months.
Mr. Chair, another question. I'm confused, or not confused, but this is a discussion item that I'd like to hear from other board members or from Hinch. Why are we setting a number? I mean, I realize cannabis is controversial.
You don't have to.
No, and I realize we don't have
Okay,
to,
just
but I
making
mean,
sure.
just for the sake of picking an arbitrary number, what is the purpose? I mean, is there some input from the sheriff's department or from local police departments to manage too many? Or, I mean, the market will dictate who's successful, and if anybody's watching the news, the sales they're already breaking the rules. So I'm a little bit I mean, I don't want to hold business. I hate to pick an arbitrary number is where I don't know.
Mr. Chair, can I note a couple
Sure.
things that may help? And I'm sure that Ryan might have some things to add. What we've heard from the police departments, the city councils, the townships, is it would be great if they could have that consistency. It would make things a lot easier. There are a couple of cities that would like to have it formed on their own, and that makes sense, but they were still looking for consistency, because it would be a simpler approach. However, when you're talking about compliance, the majority of the responsibility falls on the state. There will be compliance checks that are required by our sheriff's office and by police departments, just like there are with alcohol and tobacco licensing. However, the majority of the ownership will be placed on the state. And then the board or a township or a city, they can decide whether or not they want to be more involved in that in between the period where the state has to take action. They can suspend the license if they would want to. They can be more stringent, or you don't have to.
Mr. Chair, again, so just to follow up on that, so the ones that I'm listening to on the news right today are selling cannabis at a higher THC than it's allowed. And just as just an example, who's responsible for whatever number we pick, or who's responsible of doing that? Then the state, or is that
Yeah.
McLeod County? I mean, if they're breaking the rules of the THC being too high, who receives the complaints?
I believe we'll be doing age compliance checks, and the state would receive complaints on sales, correct?
And, Mr. Chair, I mean, it could be twofold. I mean, the state will always have an interest, the Office of Cannabis Management and their regulation. But I mean, if there's sales that violate the law, I mean, there's a potential criminal component to that, depending on what we would pass as, part of our, land use, planning, zoning requirements. If there's violations, there could still be enforcement mechanisms there. So that's a really broad question. I mean, I think the fair answer would be it depends. I mean, it could be county and state, and a mix. I mean, there could be civil and criminal liability. So there's a possibility of both. And if I could, when you talk about the decision to limit the number of retail locations, whether it's to cap it at the minimum allowed per statute, the 1 per 12.5, or to allow something more than that, it has some practical ramifications for not only the county, but then the cities or townships that have the option to either adopt the county's ordinance or do nothing or write their own. And I won't speak for Winston, they're just here, so I'll use a scenario like that is if the county were to do the minimum allowed, which would be the 1 per 12.5 or the 3. Assuming that there's at least one city, like either Hutchinson or Glencoe or both, that allow for 3 or more, those 3 would count against the county's maximum, or the county's number. So if those larger cities, for instance, decide to pass their own and regulate it in their own way, we can't, put a cap on their number, but their licenses that are within the county would count against that county's number. What that would give an option for the city of Winsted, for instance, is if they wanted no retail locations in their city and they adopted our ordinance, that would, assuming Hutcher and Glencoe combined get more than 3 or more, they would have 0 in their city. Now, if the board decides to not put a cap or cap it at a much higher number, then if a city like Winsted decides, well, we want to still put the minimum, we want to minimize what's allowed in our city, they would still have to, even if they did their own ordinance, they would have to allow 1. Because within their city, they'd have to have the 1 per 12.5. So each of your small cities would likely have to have at least 1, or if they chose to allow more, they could allow as many as they wanted. I mean, so we never have the ability to tell Winsted, you can't have X number of retail locations, because they can legislate that on their own. But if they want none, the only realistic way that would likely happen is if there's a county cap.
Mr. Chair, I just want to note, for the public's sake, 1 per 12.5 means 1 per 12,500 people in your state population, the population that's done formally, or less. So that's why our attorney is saying that Winstead, they would have to have it even if they don't have 12,500 people. It's 12,500 or less. Just because it's been so confusing, the population for the questions that we get.
Mr. Chair, the reason I'm asking this is I'm trying to, in my head, I'm trying to figure out a way so we don't have to put all the cities through this. Because I expect a fiasco, my word, but of how we ever, get on solid ground with this. So why are, I'd like to see the county stand as close together as we could, and that number is gonna be probably the sticking point to, whether it's zero or, if we reach our cap and then somebody wants to go over. And I think there's gonna be, this problem that's going on right now with the high THC, there's gonna be so many people pushing the envelope to make a point. They're not doing it for better sales. They're gonna try to take the law to its fullest degree, and I really don't want to be involved in that, or I don't want McLeod County to be wasting a lot of money on that. That's the reason. I don't think I have any more questions.
Mr. Chair, just a couple of notes. In the THC levels, those types of things, the compliance checks that our sheriff's office would be performing are age verification checks, mostly. If there was a complaint received about THC being over the allowable level sold, that would definitely involve the state, I would assume, from everything that I've read and learned at my workshops that I've attended. Also, just recall too that they can only sell items that are manufactured in Minnesota. So they would likely be addressing that with the manufacturer as well, if something was manufactured over the allowable 5 milligram per serving. There's a lot of questions so far. I didn't realize that, for instance, you could buy one of the THC drinks and it may have 10 milligrams in it, but it's 2 servings. So those types of regulatory checks, I believe that most of that will be placed in the state. If the police department or the sheriff's office received a complaint, I'm sure they're going to look into it. However, when you do the compliance that we're responsible for, per the statute, Ryan, is it the age compliance verification?
Right, that would be primary, similar to like a tobacco or an alcohol compliance check at this point, and then perhaps some of the basic things like storage. I mean, there's certain places you can't, have things sitting on a counter, there's, it'd be, those more basic compliance checks are that what's required of the local agencies, right.
What a deal.
Yeah, what a mess. It is a public hearing. If there's anyone from the public that's joined us today, like some time at the microphone, please take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, if for no other reason, just to hear your opinions. I've got nothing for myself etched in stone. I'd just like to make it a little easier on our county.
Hi, thank you. Neil Schlegel, City of Winston, City Administrator. I think all we're doing here today, our mayor and I are here just to kind of see where you guys are sitting at, but like County Attorney here had mentioned, I think if you did limit, it probably helps us in the short run, because we're looking to probably adopt whatever you guys come up with for the most part from the draft that we have seen. And I think it helps our current council's feeling of, let's ease into this process, where maybe Hutchinson and Glencoe, I think, are looking at different avenues. So I think for us, it would help for the city to limit what we would have to allow, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. And Neil, just Mr. Chair, sorry.
Yep.
I believe that Glencoe and Hutchinson are looking at forming their own ordinance, but none of it has shown me that it would be much different from ours, besides possibly no limitations for Hutchinson. They were looking to the state to handle the limitations, and just everyone goes through the same application process. Is that what you understand?
That's what I was referring to, yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I understand,
Might-
which makes me feel it's most likely, just business-wise, to succeed in Hutchinson, just based on the number as well, the number, population numbers, so.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I guess where I'm at is the amendment, or the ordinance can be amended later. I think, slowing down and just taking a smaller bite of this is fine. Overall, the number, I don't know, but I think for the sake of, progressing today, I would like the 3 number put on it. It doesn't limit the cities if they choose to adopt their own ordinance. That's their choice. It does give them the ability to still adopt ours, knowing exactly what we're saying. And we can always look at it again. Not that probably any of us want to sign up for that again, but it is our job to do that if something goes through. Again, probably big picture, the number isn't that big a deal to me. Well, it is, it's a big deal, but choosing that number is difficult. And that's why I think we should start with the minimum and work from there. That's my opinion.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add that whatever standards that the county board does set in this ordinance, you have to approve a business that's approved by the state if it meets all of your standards. So what Commissioner Nagel is saying with starting basic and then if you need to expand later, I guess you could look at that from a protection standpoint too, that yes, you could look at if you need to grow that number in the future probably more easily than shrinking it.
So then you're looking, excuse me, the draft we have in front of us, then you're looking at either.
I'd say the top paragraph
top
with,
paragraph,
but
1 to
changing
3.
that to 3.
Yeah,
You know, that's
with the change of
the
3.
typo.
Okay.
And
Does that best describe what you think, Ryan? Yeah, so.
That's what you just articulated.
Yep, yeah, so, I mean, they are very similar, the two options, right? But when you get lost in the weeds on them, sorry. But
Took me a while.
the number, yeah, the top paragraph with it being clear that it's 3, not 4.
That's 3, yeah.
Yep.
with
Mr. Chair.
clarification on that now, but if one city had 3, that fills our
I
quota.
get that for now.
No, and I just want to make
Yep,
sure
no, I
that's the
under-
clarification.
Yep, and that's how I understand it. And I get that for now, but I think I'm okay with that today.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have another question for the county attorney. So if you limit this is just limiting the retail locations, correct?
Correct. And, I mean, there's a number of other items that would need to be addressed. I mean, the majority of items related to this issue in kind of what we've been referring to as phase 2. So, this isn't talking about growing or cultivating. This isn't talking about processing. This is a very limited issue.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
And when I read section 6, I look at the wording itself, and the top paragraph says shall be limited, which is to me pretty finite, although we've expressed that there's an option to come back and look at changes. But the bottom paragraph, if you look at the same wording, it says may be limited to 1 registration. So it leaves the door open. That's the way I'm interpreting the way it says, whether it says shall or maybe.
Mr. Chair, I just put that wording in there for your consideration. It was just worded in different ways for you to look at.
But, I mean, that is the, if I may, that is the way it's written. I believe that may language would create a scenario that would open up, I mean, if you choose one and not the other, immediately the concerns become, is it favoritism? Is it arbitrary to allow one, not the other? Most counties that, or most municipalities that I've seen that have addressed this have either limited it to a finite, that minimum number, or chose a number, but to allow the may language I think creates a scenario that just, I mean, whatever the board acts on, if you allow some and not others that meet all the other criteria, it gets hard to justify why you wouldn't be treating those applications similarly. So that would be the concern I would have with the may language. Now, if you were wholly uncomfortable with limiting the number at all, I mean, one avenue is to take is to not limit it. But either one of those would create a scenario where we'd be consistent moving forward. If we allowed that discretion, so to speak, you would certainly have more options, but there'd be more opportunities for whatever exercise of that discretion to be criticized as well.
Mr. Chair? Yep. Thanks for the explanation. I also am considering, looking out for, let's say, a business that may exist in my district. Let's say if there's a CBD dispensary already operating in Lester Prairie, and we put a hard limit of 3 in McLeod, and we have applications in Hutchinson and Glencoe, where does that leave? What kind of option is left for a business that already exists in Lester Prairie that is dispensing CBD products, hopefully legally, at this point in time?
I mean, I would need to look at specifically what we're dealing with there, but I mean, I would not anticipate if they're in legal compliance now and selling that their business would be, shut down in any way. Now, could it prevent them from expanding into a new related business venture of selling some of these additional products? It certainly could have that effect. But Lester Prairie could, I mean, that's only if Lester Prairie adopts our ordinance. Yeah, I mean, that, so the city.
Ryan, sorry, without reading the booklet, CBD versus THC, well, I get is it both?
I believe CBD falls under a different standard than CBD with THC. This is allowing for THC to be contained in those products.
Yeah, I guess that's
That's what I understand as well. Not in
I
here,
could go
but
and find
that's what I
the
understand.
800-page packet and find the exact part. However, I think that CBD has been allowable under different standards for some time in Minnesota, and this is for cannabinoids that contain THC, or cannabinoid products, correct?
So, Mr. Chair, I'll try to rephrase a little bit. So we have an existing business in Lester Prairie involved in CBD products, and his business model maybe could include the recreational marijuana component down the road. What is the ramification of the decision we make today on him doing that in Lester Prairie?
So if that business would be looking at expanding into a venture that would require, registration under these new laws, so like the recreational THC-related products, our decision today on its initially wouldn't impact that at all. What would be the next step would be to know what the city of Lester Prairie does. If the city of Lester Prairie would adopt the county's ordinance, and the county ordinance had that cap, and if those 3 licenses were already taken up somewhere else, that individual's options would be limited. He would not, there would not be a license for him to acquire. Now, the city of Lester Prairie, but that only happens if the county would pass this and the city of Lester Prairie would decide to adopt ours. Lester Prairie can always say, we want to allow for any number in their city if they so choose. So the city would still have that, I mean, they would be the closest decision-making authority to him that would affect him.
Mr. Chair, so with what the county attorney is saying too, and the city of Lester Prairie has participated in our discussions, and I believe that they plan to adopt our ordinance. However, keep in mind, it would be quite simple to adopt this ordinance in their own city, take it, put their language in it that works for them, and not worry about that issue. Also, if you do decide to make changes, that public hearing process is not very long, and I believe the state application process is probably longer, that we would be notified. And we also have to consider that there will be the medical marijuana operations coming into consideration, the growth, like you said, the growth and distribution, and there was delivery operations, there's a lot, so
And we don't know where the applications are, correct, out there?
we only know about the social equity applications, and there was supposed to be, they said another application period would open in the late fall. Well, we're pretty close to late fall.
So we're purely speculating. I mean,
Yeah.
to continue to do so,
Yep.
Hutch could have one, Glencoe could have one, and Lester Perry could have one, under this ordinance. If we went with the number 3. We don't know.
How do we decide?
That's where I
think-
think we decide and.
No,
amend it if
and I
we
mean,
need to.
that's not a, I just, it just tears the whole thing up, because who are you gonna pick? And who sets the criteria on the fees, and, I mean, some of it's spelled out, but not all of it, and Brian made the county attorney made the biggest point is, if one gets one and one doesn't, I can see it standing for some litigation.
Mr. Chair, so you cannot discriminate between the applicants if they meet the standard, like we said, so I believe that the one good thing the state drafted, it kind of protects you from that. You're not going to be able to choose. If they meet the standard, they meet the standard, it'd be a timing issue, you'd have to choose first application that's
realize that.
approved. And then the fees, the state set maximums, this packet shows that you would adopt all the state maximum fees. So those are all already set, you're not choosing that part, you really are only choosing, if you're choosing between anything, it would be the number. The rest of this is what helps you meet statute.
Well, in my opinion, at this point, I've heard the word brought up, speculation. We're doing a lot of guessing of what will happen down the road. And Sheila mentioned the public hearing process is not that complicated or lengthy to come back and make changes. And I think we have to start somewhere, see where things kind of play out, and assume that there's gonna be a day when we're gonna have to come back and perhaps tweak language or look at something different. But I think everybody's in a holding pattern until our cities and so forth, until we make a move and see where we're at. And if we have to come back and change it a few months down the road because we've created some hardships or some extra difficulties that we didn't see today, then that's what we have to do. We've never really had to deal with something like this before, so I think it's acceptable to say we need to start somewhere. But again, we're in the public hearing phase, so anybody can come forward. One question, as we satisfy any other comments and we would close the hearing, we then sit with an opportunity to adopt today or down the road at our next meeting. Would we want to see a copy put in front of us that is all in black and is not, in red with lines through it and so forth, cleaned up at our next meeting? That's an option that we have, but another chance to hear Neil, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt
good.
again, but I think, I just want to say that I would really like you to make a decision tonight, because otherwise it leaves, or today, sorry, it looks like night out, but today, because it would really help us moving forward and the other cities moving forward. Obviously, what you do doesn't necessarily mean that we can't do our own, but just to make it easier on the cities. And I think what we're looking at, Mr. Schmalz, is that Leicester can do whatever they want in the end. So even if they say, we're gonna adopt this and your current business gets that licensing, they can go back and change theirs to their own ordinance if it's Leicester Prairies. Does that make sense? I mean, am I making sense? So I don't think, to me, what you guys, and talking about the number and what you're limiting, you're really, I mean, in the end, everybody can almost choose on their own. And if you say we're going to only have 3, that just helps us regulate it easier as far as cities go, individual cities.
If you adopt ours.
Right.
So you feel there's a sense of cities waiting on us?
I do, because, yes, I do for sure think that, and we're trying to get it done before the first of the year.
Mr. Chair,
As well.
that's accurate. I've had other cities contact me this week because they've been following what we're doing, and in order for, if they were looking to adopt your ordinance and meet the public hearing date requirements for 2024, they would need to have a decision today. However, this is the final draft. We could put a proposed final draft on the website. They would be able to take that. They can adopt whatever they would like, or be, you know, if they're going to be late, I don't know. That doesn't mean that you have to make a decision. However, that's where they are at.
Right, and that's all I'm here. Obviously, you guys get to choose what you want to do, but just trying to put our 2 cents in
I'm
from a
glad
city
you're here.
standpoint.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yep.
I do it, Mr. Chair. I guess everybody's kind of convinced me to try to move forward. I'm still stuck on that number, and I guess that's not important maybe for today if we want to move forward, because it lets the cities or whoever's interested see if they like our ordinance, and if it's just the number part, you know, overall, I just don't want to see everybody, we got a lot of man hours and a lot of time in this, and if the ordinance itself is good and the number is the issue, it sounds by everybody's comment that it's fairly easy to rectify that if that's all their
If we
problem.
create some unintentional consequences, we need to be humble enough to look at that
Correct.
on anything.
All right.
So I think we should wait for Daryl to get back, but I'm ready to throw a motion out, but I don't know if there's any more public comment or not.
Mr. Chair? I'll say this before we move forward, but I see that, you know, our next topic is going to be pertaining to planning and zoning changes. Is there a component to this decision that's before us right now pertaining to planning and zoning issues?
Mr. Chair, no, that's what I noted at the beginning. There's nothing to consider for that item. We had set the public hearing in case there would be. However, that item will just be nothing
Although we will have to address.
in January. We don't have the final rulings from the state in order for you to make decisions there.
I'm take a break, but no, we can't.
So in reference to that, when we get to item 8, just 'cause we're waiting for Daryl to come back, or we're just going, we still need to open and close the public hearing because it's in the agenda today.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can you repeat that? I needed a note.
No problem. Item 8, are
you.
we seeing that at all today? We still need to open and close the public hearing for it, though.
We left it on the agenda because we had posted for the public hearing. We would still need to open and close it, but
Yep.
no action is expected to be taken.
Okay.
Could I ask for a small recess to get Commissioner
Yep, let's take a
Luthman's
5-minute
piece?
recess then until we're all back
Can we
here.
do
So
that during the public hearing, or do we have to?
County Attorney, are we allowable to do that during the public hearing?
Well,
How about,
we can, or, I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
okay, I
If
just
we're not-
wanted
If we're not anticipating any more public comment, we can close the public hearing and the board can
And then
still
take-
discuss any
do that.
motions that need to be
Okay,
discussed.
very good.
I'd move to close the public hearing.
second?
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to close the public hearing. I'm just gonna call one last time for any public comment before we do that. Okay, seeing none, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We'll now take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back and make an action item out of what we just talked about, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we could do that then. This is gonna be a Zoom.
Well, we're gonna come back and change it, but no, there was a question in the word shall that you brought up. I mean, here's the time to cross it. I believe the comments that we've heard is that we need to decide because our cities are waiting for us. We have to make that first move. We do have a draft in front of us, and just for the sake of discussion, if we take the draft that we have, the items that are crossed out or stay crossed out, we're adding what is in red on there, and the bigger section that we need to talk about would be that section 6, the limits on cannabis businesses in the county. And I believe we may have left our public hearing under the intent that we would be limiting to an initial of 3 business registrations available countywide within our county ordinance. And if I've stated all that correctly, that would potentially be the draft that we're considering to adopt here today.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just want to clarify, section 6, you're taking the top paragraph.
Yep.
And amending 4 to 3 throughout that paragraph regarding business registrations. Was that your intent of the
Yes.
explanation?
Yep.
With that, I would move to approve the ordinance.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nagel and a second by Commissioner Kruger to adopt our draft today, our ordinance regulating the use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places and cannabis businesses within McLeod County is the title of the draft. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with the county attorney on some instances of example on how this affects municipalities or townships in my district, and I'm comfortable with the response he has given me. Although not fully comfortable with a decision, I will support the motion, knowing that we can come back and make amendments to the motion as needed as we move forward. I realize the need to make a decision is beneficial to our cities and townships, and that's why I'll support the motion as presented today.
Okay. Very good. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next action item then will be a public hearing relating to the changes to the McLeod County Planning and Zoning Ordinance with its relation to cannabis and cannabis-derived products. We'll begin by opening up the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to open the public hearing. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're now in the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to approach the board? Call on our administrator then to make a description.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A, consider adopting changes to the McLeod County Planning and Zoning Ordinances. As noted, I have nothing for the county board to consider until the state law changes are complete.
So what is the, Mark, if you need to come to the mic, that's fine, but what is the plan here? It feels like we're spinning our wheels on this, and are we just basically, because the state hasn't changed anything?
Yeah.
Is that, or maybe you didn't hear the question the way out. Feels like we're spinning the wheels, and that does happen, but is it based on we don't have clear direction from the state yet?
So the rule
regarding what
hasn't,
we need?
the rule hasn't been completed yet. Currently, the way our ordinance is constructed and where we allow businesses to occur, this is a pretty simple solution, in my opinion, in regards to an amendment. I can work through that amendment with the planning commission and bring a proposal back to you at a workshop prior to us scheduling a public hearing for that. Our public hearing process by 394 says we have to give notice to the clerks of both the cities and the townships 30 days prior to us holding that public hearing. So to schedule that, that puts us currently today, based on our planning commission meeting on December 18th, that puts us into January. So I can start that process and have that on our planning commission agenda for December 18th if you so choose. And then after we start that process, when we're complete with the draft, I can bring it back to the board at a workshop prior to us taking it back to the planning commission for a public hearing. That is our normal process so that everybody's on the same page prior to us scheduling a public hearing to any zoning amendment.
And I'm cool with that.
Which is what we've discussed.
Okay, so let's, I mean, I don't know if you need action from us or what, but let's make that happen, I think. At least that's my opinion.
Mr. Chair,
Sounds good, yeah.
and that includes the I've talked to you before, that includes the growing, and I don't know how broad this new thing is, whether it covers hemp. Nobody's ever given me a final answer on that yet, because, do we have to carve that out or no?
So that's if we want to regulate our cultivation acres. Our processing, as staff, my recommendation would be, that is a manufacturing / industrial activity. Based on the water use that's required for that type of process, I would strongly suggest we put that in a commercial or an industrial district. So how the ordinance is regulating that particular type of entity will dictate in regards to whether or not, A, we want to limit those types of facilities, but in regards to the growing acres for hemp or cannabis, if we're not going to regulate growing acres, then obviously it's a moot point.
But the procedure that we just described will cover all that.
It will, yes.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm supportive of getting this into Mark's wheelhouse and seeing what they can do with it is my understanding, and that's, I think, the right direction to go.
Okay, we are in the public hearing. Is there any comments at all?
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion by Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nagel. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The public hearing is closed. Action item, is there then a motion to direct Mark to run this through his planning and zoning planning commission process? Okay, we have a motion? Let's make it official. We have a motion by Nagel. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Schmaltz to have this issue taken up with our planning and zoning department and planning commission. Mark, good enough?
Yeah, so with
Okay.
that being said, once we get something together, again, our intent is to typically process, we'll get it to Ryan and Sheila for review, but we'll also schedule then back with the board for a workshop prior to scheduling a public hearing.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, I think that wraps up our dealings with cannabis and cannabis products for today's meeting. We'll now be moving on to Health and Human Services. Barrett.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have two items before you today. Item A is to consider approving the cooperative agreement renewal between McLeod County Health and Human Services and the McLeod County Attorney's Office to provide fraud investigation services for the period of January 1st through December 31st of 2025 at a rate of $145 per hour for attorney work, $37 per hour for investigative work, not to exceed a maximum annual amount of $22,000, plus $480 annual for cell phone reimbursement. This will come out of our Human Service Fund 11-420. Just to note, this is a 3.5% increase from our current 2024 contracted rates.
Okay, discussion, anyone?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve the cooperative agreement renewal between McLeod County Health and Human Services and the McLeod County Attorney's Office. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, consider approving the contract renewal with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, Inc., to provide Minnesota Family Investment Program, also known as MFIP, and diversionary work program services to McLeod County for the period of January 1st through December 31st of 2025 at a cost of $162,040 with funds from the Individual and Family Services Budget 11-430. Services provided may include paid employment activities, paid and unpaid work experience and community service site placements, job search and work readiness assistance, individualized structured job search, follow-up, chemical health treatment, mental health treatment and rehabilitation services, education and training-related activities, and family stabilization services. The proposed budget indicates that $138,084 will be allocated to MFIP and $23,956 to the diversionary work program. Just to note that Central Minnesota Jobs and Training's contract request was reduced. Their initial request was reduced by $10,000 from their current 2024 amount due to the reduced funding that we, McLeod County, received for the upcoming year of 2025.
All right, questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I do have a question, Bear. Who decides, I mean, that funding was reduced and that, who makes that decision? The county funding was reduced or?
Our allocation for the Department of Human Services.
Okay, but Central Minnesota, I'm sorry, the Minnesota Investment Program is strictly run by that number?
Yes, through,
Okay.
through Central Minnesota Jobs and Training,
Okay.
yeah. So there's a grant allocation that comes for, or an allocation, excuse me, that comes from DHS. We keep some of that money for emergency assistance, some other
Yep.
things that we do. And because our overall rate was reduced, we decided to split that. It was actually reduced by 20,000. We asked Central Minnesota to take on 10% or $10,000 of that cut, which they were happy to abide with.
Okay.
Any other questions for Barrett?
I'll move to approve.
And second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmaltz to consider approving the contract renewal with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training to provide Minnesota Family Investment Program and Diversionary Work Program services in McLeod County. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, one more question, Barrett, is what is the usage of the job services? Is it high, or is it?
It is
and the
fairly high.
success?
Yep, yep. They've been a successful and a very great partner to have over the years, so.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barrett. Next up will be employee relations. Hannah?
Good morning.
Morning.
Item A is consider approving the memorandum of agreement for employee-sponsored health insurance contributions and health savings account contribution with the McLeod County unit of the non-licensed sergeants of the Law Enforcement Labor Services, LELS, local number 329 for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the MOA as specified.
Okay. We have a motion by Schmaltz, second by Nagel, to approve the memorandum of agreement. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item B is the same language. Consider approving the MOA for the employee-sponsored health insurance contribution and health savings account contribution with McLeod County for the licensed sergeants with the LELS local number 297 for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Mr. Chair, I'll move as specified the MOA that was given.
Okay. Is there a second? We have a motion by Schmaltz and a second by Nagel to approve the memorandum of agreement with LELS number 297. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item C is consider approving the recommendation reviewed by the Personnel Committee to change the status of one temporary 20-hour-a-week Attorney's Office Legal Administrative Assistant to a permanent 20-hour-per-week position. This has been reviewed with some time, and the request is based on the needs of the department.
Move to approve request.
Motion by Kruger, second by Nagel to approve the recommendation by Personnel Committee to change the status of a temporary 20-hour-week Attorney's Office Legal Admin Assistant to permanent. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to Attorney's Office. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be a relatively quick agenda item, but it is a litigation update on the Laura Vogelpohl versus McLeod County Health and Human Services et al. Litigation that was taking place in federal court. Back in July of this year, the board authorized the county and my office to move forward with a proposed settlement agreement on various terms to settle this lawsuit. Excuse me, let me pull that up. We have, those terms included that the Department of Human Services would develop a new waiver form. That's what was at issue here, was what a waiver form included as far as notices to the individual if they waive the right to a hearing on a disqualification issue. The state Department of Human Services had put out a form that did not fully comply with federal regulations and law, and that was the basis of this suit. So it required the State Department of Human Services to develop a new form. It required the state to rescind the disqualification that was issued pursuant to that waiver form for this individual, that the individual be paid a sum of $4,092, that the state Department of Human Services would acknowledge that Ms. Vogelpohl was the prevailing party for the purposes of having attorney fees paid by the state, and then a provision if that number couldn't be agreed upon, how we would determine what the attorney fee number was. We were able to move forward with the settlement along those lines. It did entail the State Department of Human Services paying for the entirety of the attorney's fees as well as that $4,000 sum. So the county has no financial obligations related to this settlement agreement. In exchange, Ms. Vogelpohl has released all claims against the county or any of the other parties. And really for the county, all it means is that we may have to assist the state in rescinding that disqualification just to make sure that our records reflect that it's been rescinded. So in light of the issues and the potential liability, I believe this was a positive outcome, and it was consistent with what the board had previously authorized. So it's been a fully signed and executed agreement, and I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
Okay, no action required, just a notification. Correct. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll then be moving on. Administration, review our calendars.
Real quick for me, department head meeting, met with most of the department heads. Topics probably mostly focused on their updates and the upcoming budgeting process, and then had the canvassing board where I served on that board, and I think Connie did a good job covering that earlier, so I'll leave it with that.
Okay. I attended the department head meeting. Mr. Nagel had mentioned also yesterday, McLeod County Economic Development Committee met. A lot of updates there. There are plenty of things in the works countywide, and it is nice to be able to have kind of a county look on those activities. So, go ahead.
Well, I had a couple of one watershed, one plan meetings. On the 6th, I had North Fork, and on the 7th, I had Lower Minnesota, again, which is self-explanatory, covers the northern part and the southern part. But basically, in both meetings, just going through budgets and look at what monies are available for cover crops, probably one of the bigger things, at least in the lower Minnesota, and just see what's available. Agenda review on Thursday, and that pretty much brings us to today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'll be brief as well. After our last county board meeting on the 5th, we held a workshop here at the Government Center. Thursday, the 7th, I drove to Alexandria for a Prime West Joint Powers Board meeting. On Tuesday, the 12th, that would be last week, we had Ditch Marathon hearings going on in Carver County with the creation of redeterminations on several of our ditches. Now, though that watershed now crosses from Carver County into McLeod County on JD4, JD5, JD7, and Joint Ditch 1. Those hearings lasted from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, Mr. Chair. And then on 13th, evening of the 13th, I attended the Bergen Township meeting where we had a discussion about year-end and cannabis. And same thing on Thursday the 14th, I attended the Hale Township meeting and also the Winsted Township meeting, giving them a year-end update, McLeod County, and also a cannabis discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything, Darrell?
Mr. Chair, I have nothing.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else from the attorney's office? Okay, back to administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A, consider adopting Resolution 24-CB-30, reappointment of county assessor. This resolution is to reappoint County Assessor Sue Schultz to a 4-year term beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31, 2028. We have discussed this previously and the timelines in prior meetings. Thank you.
Okay, questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'll move resolution 24CB-30.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmal, second by Nagel to approve resolution 24CB-30, reappointment of county assessor. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, notification of Rinky Noonan 2025 hourly rates. Rinky Noonan provides legal counsel to the McLeod County Drainage Authority in its capacity as the Public Drainage Authority. In a letter to the McLeod County Board of Commissioners, Rinky Noonan Law Firm announced the following rates for 2025 listed in the agenda. The remaining terms of their representation can be found in the agreement approved by the Drainage Authority in 2021.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Mr. Chair, there's no approval needed.
It's just a notification.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I
Nope,
would have told you
that's fine.
sooner. I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And just from the attorney's office, whenever Rinky Noonan is called in, that is billed back to the ditch system. Is that correct?
That is correct, and per the terms of the agreement from 2021, I mean, it's on or 2022, it's on an as-needed basis.
Yep.
It's not a full, there are counties that have delegated that in its entirety. That's not what this is. We do have the retainer agreement, and then they need to be specifically requested to work on any specific projects. So that request would either come from my office or from the auditor treasurer, but we coordinate that with one another. So the nature of the arrangement hasn't changed.
Okay.
Thank you. Item C, notification of board workshop at 3:30 PM on Thursday, December 5th, 2024, here at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item D, notification of Truth and Taxation meeting at 6:00 PM on Thursday, December 5th, 2024, at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota.
Do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're to the end of our agenda items. Is there anything for open forum or press relations that need to come before the board this morning? Anything? Our closed meeting, again, we did move that to December 17th, so we will not be seeing that. If that is all of our business that is needed to be conducted, we're looking for a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to recess until our next county board meeting, 4:30, Thursday, December 5th, McLeod County Government Center. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Couple minutes, let's start our workshop agenda.
I have to look back at my notes to see what they set the next board, or next meeting at.
Which meeting?
Prime West, I think, is that